So the first argument that we're going to consider then is going to be based on these kind of biological differences. Um, and so thinking about how we're going to justify having girls only sporting competitions, we're going to look at an argument that's historically been made. So historically, the argument has been made in terms of safety. And I said before that this is an argument that was used by the FA, which is the regulatory body for football in the UK. It was used as an argument to kind of argue for segregation between girls and boys and preventing girls from playing football with boys even when they wanted to, which is something that's kind of going to be important here. So I put this in terms of three premises here. It's something that you guys might want to kind of try and emulate when you're writing your own arguments. So premise one, boys have biological advantages over girls that can lead to an increased likelihood of injury for girls playing against them. So this is going to be drawing based on whether this premise is true. It's going to be drawing on these kind of sex differences that we saw in the previous slide and thinking about whether there's going to be an increased risk of injury for girls if they're playing against boys who on average are going to be taller, heavier, perhaps stronger than them. Second premise is going to be, girls have a right to be safe when playing sports. And then third premise is going to be, therefore, girls have a right to exclude boys when playing sports, because if integrated or mixed competition is going to be putting them at risk of injury, and that might violate this proposed right to be safe while playing sports. So this is just a reconstruction of some of the logic that was found at the time when the FA were pushing this policy. And this is a potential argument that you could try and run. So this argument has been critiqued on kind of feminist grounds. So it's something that has been perceived as being overly paternalistic. So this argument is pretty strong in the claims that it wants to make, which is not just that women should have this right to, sorry, girls should have this right to girls only competitions should they want it. It's more that it's stronger than that, which is girls cannot compete with boys even if they want to in football. And this argument from safety was deemed inconsistent by many because the FA's policy at the time was to allow younger boys to play in competitions with older boys, and this would present exactly the same risks of increased injury, but this was allowed, whereas mixed competition was not. So there's definitely some inconsistency in how this was applied. However, we might think that even if this argument isn't good enough to justify the FA's conclusion, which was that there should never be integration between girls and boys, at least beyond a certain age, which I think was 13 at the time, and has now been raised. It might be enough concerns about safety might be enough to establish that there should be the option for all girls teams, and that's perhaps all we need to try and justify when it comes to answering this question. So maybe you think the argument from safety is convincing in terms of justifying this kind of weaker claim than the strong claim the FA was trying to make.